winter storm number 1, winter storm number 2, winter storm number 3. This video has the details on at least 3 snow signals on the way and everything else going on in the pattern ahead. Thank you very much for taking time to tune into this video. I still sound a little bit weird as I'm dealing with the after effects of the flu, but without further ado, I want to go ahead and give you a look at the latest custom graphics I've made for snow tracks and ice tracks as we go through around the next 10 days across the United States, especially the next week or so, as there have been some shifts for our main 3 winter storm signals that are on the horizon as of right now. I'll break down each of these individually with more of a specific breakdown region by region as we get deeper into the video. But let's start here with your first winter storm expected tomorrow, Wednesday, February 5th, through our Thursday, February 6th. All the winter storms that we see through the next week or so originating out here, especially through the Pacific Northwest and the Mountain West, where we're going to get heavy accumulations of snow, maybe even some gusty winds on up there into those high elevations, rain in the low elevations, and then we're going to see these storms expand east. Here's our first one, again, Wednesday into Thursday, snow from the Dakotas through Minnesota, Wisconsin, and then it's stretching all the way on over here into the interior Northeast, but especially through some of these same zones that are going to get snow and into points south into the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Mid-Atlantic, looking at significant ice as a concern out of this first storm. And the next storm, which is going to track a little bit further south, February 8th through 9th, could do a very similar thing as we go towards the upcoming weekend from around Saturday to Sunday. Snow possible anywhere from parts of the north central plains, stretching through the Great Lakes and then over into the Northeast, and then ice on the south side of that. And then by February 10th through 12th, another system moving through the west, and then having the potential to move a little bit further south out into the central plains this time. From there, where exactly we see some of our energy, that's going to be something we have to track, but it looks like a bullseye for a winter storm could especially hit these zones around February 10th through 12th. And again, let's go ahead and start breaking down those signals one by one now. That is going to begin with that one for the near term, February 5th through 6th. All right, here we are giving you a look at that high-resolution European model future radar to time out that first winter storm. Let's start as we go overnight tonight, Tuesday night as I'm recording this, and as we push into the same time frame Wednesday afternoon and then into the evening and late evening hours, especially as we go beyond the noon time and then on towards this point in time into Wednesday evening. That's when things are going to pick up with our next winter storm exiting parts of Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, where we'll see snow through the day, and then we'll begin seeing some snow and ice picking up over parts of the north central plains. The main impact by this point in time, though, into our Wednesday evening will actually be down here, parts of Illinois, Indiana, stretching down into Kentucky, Tennessee, and then maybe even parts of northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, north Georgia, with rain and even some rumbles of thunder expected, as temperatures are actually going to be much warmer than average for this time of the year in this sector of the storm. That's going to allow for some of those thunderstorms to even possibly be on that stronger side, with isolated hail and isolated tornadoes and some wind damage being something that can't be ruled out, not only during this Wednesday evening time frame, but also as we go overnight. Also overnight on the north side of that, with warm air kicking in the atmosphere, but temperatures still being below freezing at the surface, that's where our significant ice event is expected to pick on up into these zones. So as you get into your Thursday morning commute, a Thursday morning commute is not necessarily advised in a lot of these zones I'm circling, especially the further east you go. Northern Indiana, southern Michigan, northern Ohio, and then stretching over through a lot of Pennsylvania, into Maryland, back into northern Virginia, and eastern parts of West Virginia. This is where a lot of the most significant ice accretions from freezing rain that hits the ground and freezes on contact is going to be throughout this event. Please take travel slow or just avoid travel at all costs with this kind of condition going on into our Thursday morning. You can typically drive through thunderstorms like you'll be able to in places like Kentucky Thursday morning. You can drive through the snow that we're going to be having on up here into parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and parts of northern Michigan carefully, but it's very dangerous with that freezing rain, and keep that in mind if you're there into parts of the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic. As we go through the day Thursday, that ice line trying to creep on up towards the north, also with some heavy snow briefly hitting parts of southern New England, but then especially accumulating more and lingering longer and staying as snow as you get into interior parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Back towards the south and west, couldn't rule out some stronger thunderstorms through the day Thursday back here into parts of the Ohio Valley and then down towards places like Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. But overall, it looks like this system is going to be winding down as we go through the afternoon and evening. Snow may be turning to ice even into parts of the interior Northeast to finish the very end of this event sometime around Thursday late evening. That could also conclude with some thunderstorms back towards Tennessee, but then we're really done as we go into the overnight hours and looking ahead to our next winter storm. In terms of some of the total impacts from our winter weather side of winter storm number 1, let's talk about snowfall first, playing things out with the National Digital Forecast Database as we get through our Friday morning when this will have all likely concluded for a lot of folks. You can see a lot of snow out west with everything that's going to be going on out there and sending these lows further to the north. But let's talk about some of the snow here first into the north central plains, coming out of the Dakotas into Minnesota, Wisconsin, parts of Michigan, especially the upper peninsula. As you transition out of those grays where a dusting to a couple of inches will be possible and then into those blues, that's where a better chance for at least a couple of inches of snow will be possible, with locally higher amounts upwards of 3 to 5 being on that higher end. And then as you stretch on over here to the northeast, keep in mind a lot of this snow as you come into parts of the mid-Atlantic, including places like New York City, you'll transition to ice and then over to rain pretty quickly as we go through the day on Thursday as this moves in. The best chance for uninterrupted snow that could accumulate better going to be on up here into parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, where we're going to have that best chance for a few inches of that decent snowfall here. In terms of ice accretion, this is what could cause dangerous issues, especially in terms of power outages and slick roadway conditions if it piles up more in some locations. Here's what the National Digital Forecast Database is anticipating across parts of the Ohio Valley and Midwest. This is as we go through around the Thursday morning time frame, where especially the ice is going to be the worst and is going to cause some driving issues in a lot of these areas. First of all, in this area, into parts of especially Iowa, northern Missouri, parts of northern Illinois, and into southern Wisconsin, isolated travel impacts, isolated power outages possible out of this glaze to 1/10 of an inch of ice as we go again, especially into our late Wednesday night, into our Thursday morning before this transitions to rain. Same goes over here, but this is going to be a little bit more concerning with some spots in far southern Michigan, far northeastern Illinois, north central Indiana, including Fort Wayne, and the north central parts of Ohio, expecting 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of ice. That's going to cause a lot more slick spots on roadways. I'd advise trying not to travel, especially until this turns over to just regular rain and all of that ice on the roadways melts and deeper into the day on Thursday. What about the northeast U.S.? Let's time out some of that ice that we could get there. From south to north, that's where the ice is going to be more concerning at various times through the day on Thursday. Into the morning on our Thursday, especially going to be an issue back down here into the mid-Atlantic, where a lot of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and then back into Maryland, West Virginia, and Northern Virginia, we're going to be watching spots picking up at least 1/10 of an inch of ice into those deeper pinks. Some spots getting more like 1/4 to 1/2 an inch of ice in those higher elevations of the central Appalachians. Again, travel not advised with ice of that criteria, and that could certainly cause some level of power outages in these zones. Through the day, it'll turn to regular rain from here and then push into the north, and that pushes your ice north, where we could at least see a glaze to 1/10 of an inch, causing isolated issues and travel impacts into a lot of the rest of southern and central parts of New England. That being said, though, we're done with that first winter storm, and we're moving on with this blended guidance here to give you a look at that next winter storm, likely right on its heels and in similar locations by the time we push towards this upcoming weekend. This is not a perfect graphic that's going to show you the exact areas that are going to get the heaviest of what, but it gives you an overview of areas likely to see rain, freezing rain, and or snow at various times as we go into the upcoming weekend out of this next event. It looks like rain and maybe some freezing rain initiating as early as Saturday morning into some parts of, you guessed it, the mid-Mississippi Valley into the Ohio Valley once again with the second storm. Looking like some snow will be ejecting out of parts of the Mountain West and then moving into the north central plains with this. Could include some heavier snow somewhere into the Dakotas and Minnesota. And guess what? All of this is going to pick up, and we're even going to see an ice storm for some zones picking up through the day as we go through Saturday and then towards eventually Saturday night and Sunday. This looks like a deja vu, but one thing that I'm more concerned about with this storm in terms of our ice and snow totals, it is going to be a little bit more horizontally oriented as we go through Saturday evening and into Sunday, meaning that our ice will translate over a lot of the same zones and train over the same zones for a more extended period of time. Same goes with your snowfall and up here into the Midwest, Great Lakes, and then over into the Northeast. So wherever you see that ice, wherever you see that snow, it's going to be more consistent over a longer duration, and it could be on that heavier side, leading to more accumulation than your first storm. Definitely going to be another problem we're going to have to watch from parts of the Ohio Valley up into the Great Lakes and the Northeast, depending on where you live with this next one. Could see more heavy snow and even a little bit closer to the coast for longer, towards places like Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, for example, into our Sunday morning with this system. And I don't want to leave out those of you who are going to be impacted by the rain. Looks like some areas could see some thunderstorms back down towards the Ohio Valley in the mid-south out of this storm, out of Saturday into Sunday. And then from there, this second winter storm is going to become history by the time we go towards Monday. And then we're on to talk about our third signal in just a moment. First, though, just for some proof that this second storm could be on that stronger side, especially even with some of the winter weather impacts, here's a look at what could happen in terms of that snowfall by the time we go through 24-hour increments. This is with blended guidance, over 50 members coming together into this European ensemble to show you this. This is your snow totals from Saturday early morning to Sunday early morning. Notice that stripe somewhere on up here through the Dakotas, Minnesota, into Wisconsin, Michigan, and then into parts of the Northeast, looking like, indicated by those blues, a few inches is already pretty high confidence if an average of guidance is already showing you this. And even into parts of the New England coastline, we could get some heavy snow out of this storm. I'll be tracking those more specific details of who gets how much ice and snow like I did with the first storm for the second one as we get into future videos. But last but not least, we're moving beyond that second winter storm and talking about the third/fourth one. Let's break this next one down. That's likely sometime as we go towards around the 10th, 11th, and 12th of February using the same blended guidance I was showing you just a minute ago. This is your GFS ensembles, indicating that somewhere here into the southeast quadrant of the U.S., we're going to have some lingering moisture that could be in any of these zones with your front a little bit further south or north, give or take, as we go towards around our Monday, February 10th in the morning. Could that mean some light snow is falling in some areas, maybe or as early as this time into the Ohio Valley and over into the Mid-Atlantic with this lingering moisture? Yes. But I think we're going to get a little bit of this energy back out into the west. It doesn't look like much, but some of this could feed into this old front lingering around from our second storm, and then that could form a third or fourth or multiple storms, let's just say that, as we go especially sometime out of the 10th into the 11th. This is not saying with this guidance right here that we're going to have a storm as expansive as from places like Texas all the way on up to Maine into our Tuesday morning. What this is showing is a huge area where we've got low confidence in specifically where something's going to be happening, but high confidence in a storm somewhere from the central to the eastern U.S. as we go out of Monday into Tuesday. And it looks like with cool air moving further south, I talked about this in the last video, that's going to push your snow chance somewhere further south. So yes, it would probably still be rain for areas down towards, say, the Gulf Coast, just like with anything we get towards the first and second storms, if we can even salvage moisture down here out of the first couple. Definitely some rain probably down towards the lower Mississippi Valley with any storm we get during this time frame. But if we're getting winter weather, it's going to be a little bit further south, down through the Central Plains, over into the Ohio Valley, maybe even towards the Mid-Atlantic coastlines. And this could turn into a bigger nor'easter with some system like this as well around the 11th or 12th. So it's a lot of speculation, but it's a big signal that we have to watch. And I'm going to keep you updated on it as we go into future videos, I can tell you that. I can't end a video, though, without talking about some of the temperature trends, especially with those forecasted high temperatures for the next couple of days, though. Let's go ahead and give you a look at that and then some of the trends for the longer range forecast with this National Digital Forecast Database. Notice as we go into our Wednesday, I'm sure you've heard about some of this record-breaking warmth, especially if you watched my last video, but here we are looking at record-breaking warmth continuing across a lot of the southern U.S. with 60s, 70s, and 80s in all these yellow, orange, and even reddish shaded zones, especially in Texas where a lot of these 80s will try to break record highs Wednesday afternoon. Cooler with 30s up into the Midwest, 20s into parts of the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, some teens into the interior Northeast, and back into parts of Montana as well as into the Dakotas. It's going to be colder in those zones. Thursday, similar deal, high contrast between the north and the south. And it's this warmth right here that's going to force your ice line north with that winter storm that's going to cause all those ice problems, especially Thursday morning into parts of the Ohio Valley Northeast. By our Thursday afternoon, look at all of the southerly flow on the south side of our winter storm and what that's going to do for all these 70s and 80s down here over parts of the lower Mississippi Valley and then up even into parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, where we'll have to watch some of those storms to even be facing into our Thursday afternoon. Crazy stuff there. By the way, these 20s and 30s are going to get increasingly windy and could blow some of that fallen snow around even after the snow ends into our Thursday afternoon up here, especially into the Great Lakes. And then from there, watch what happens after the next winter storm this weekend. By Monday, that's when you can start seeing your high temperatures of 30s and 40s sinking a lot further south. And that's why I think our next winter storm is looking to be a lot further south. All that being said, though, you've made it to the end of this video where I'm ending, showing you a little bit of a different graphic here, giving you a look at the total precipitation across the country as we get just through our first winter storm and whatever's going to be going on out west as we go through the next 48 hours across the country. Notice most spots not seeing enough to cause flooding out of this winter storm and ice storm on the southern side of it with those thunderstorms that we're going to get down here into the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic. Could see some isolated flooding where you see some of those half-inch to 1.5-inch plus totals, though, moving out of Kentucky and into West Virginia mountains. All this time, the West getting hammered, and it's continuing to do so as we finish this week, especially on up there with those higher elevations of California, picking up feet of snow at a time, just for a consistent period of time. Crazy for the ski resorts there. But of course, travel can be very dangerous with that and the wind that comes with all of that. So make sure you're checking weather.gov for all your latest alerts if you live out west. If you live out west and you want me to cover you more in my videos, I know I don't have too much viewership out there, but let me know down below in the comments if you are tuning in from out there and want more from me. That's the honorable mention graphic for today. What would not be an honorable mention and is something that you're definitely going to be doing down below is hitting that subscribe button. I'll see you next time right here at
One Nation Web.